Manx Radio Sport.
Good evening and a very happy new year. Welcome to the first Friday Sport preview on Manx Radio of 2024. I'm Rob Pritchard with you until 6:30. Let's take a look ahead to the sporting action on Ireland this weekend. Coming up tonight, the first action of this year's Ecap FA Cup takes centre stage in the first matches of senior Manx football this year on Saturday. A busy day awaits tomorrow to kickstart the rugby season in 2024, with Douglas and Vagabonds back in action, along with the resumption of the Ravenscroft Manx Shield. And the first weekend of the new year means one thing for Manx hockey: the start of the new men's and ladies campaigns. That is all to come this evening. Good evening, Fastermind. For the first time in 2024, welcome to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. No sooner have we turned to the new year that the sporting action returns in earnest this weekend across football, rugby and hockey. We're going to turn our attentions to football first, where Ecap FA Cup action, specifically the preliminary rounds, will be taking the spotlight this Saturday. And to look through it all, as usual, I've got Tony Mepham in the studio with me. Tony, very good evening and a Happy New Year.
Same to you, Rob. Yes, and the weather's not changed much, has it? It's still a little bit wet out there, but hopefully tomorrow the weather forecast looking pretty good, and pitches will dry out a little bit tonight, and we'll get a full programme on. But we do have one alteration in the Ecap FA Cup, and it's the venue. The teams will stay the same, and that's Braddon against Peel. This has been switched to Douglas Road to Peel. Well done to Braddon. It was their sort of choice. They knew start of the week it wasn't looking too good. Peel were happy enough, and both teams had set it up, and yeah, game on at Peel.
Excellent. Good to hear it's all been sorted out. Well, let's take a look through these Ecap FA Cup preliminary round fixtures. Kicking off at the earlier time of 1:15pm tomorrow, and that is to take into account the possibility of extra time and penalties in each of the respective games. 9 ties, 18 teams involved, and the thrills and spills of the Cup I'm sure the neutral will be hoping for across these. Let's start out in the south of the island, where Malou in Division 2, well, they're going to be hosting St Mary's.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting for Malou just to see how they sort of cope with the good side that St Mary's have got. This pitch must be in doubt, because I know they've had a bit of a drainage problem there, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it sorts itself out tonight. But there's no doubt about it, Alex Harrison's side are good enough to sort of beat Malou. But Malou have their good players in there, and if they can get it to gel together all on the same time, then they can possibly have a bit of an upset first half maybe. But I think fitness-wise, St Mary's will come through and come out worthy winners.
And then elsewhere, Pulrose, it's been a challenging time for them at points during Division 2 this season. They're up against the Laxey side, who in the Canada Life Men's Premier League this season have blown hot and cold at times. Yeah,
they have, but I think they've got a bit of consistency back in there now, and they're playing better. The squad seems to be staying pretty well the same. There's always been a lot of alterations going in there, but when you look at Pulrose, they've played 11 for 3 points, and they're at the foot of Division 2, so you only see this going one way, and that's going to Laxey.
And then the fixture you mentioned before with a slight change, Braddon versus Peel, all Premier League clash. Braddon were the home side, but it has been switched venue-wise to Peel just for a couple of concerns around Braddon's pitch. Braddon bottom of the Premier League, Peel top.
Yeah, and these two have already met. They know what how strong each other are. Braddon, as we always say, they've got a lot of good young players in there, and getting better each time, as well with Peel have got a really strong team. Okay, I think they let themselves down a little bit in the Railway Cup final. I just thought forward-wise, which has been so potent of late, as sort of fruit brought lots of good results and lots of goals, but certainly against Braddon, they should be able to do it on home advantage as well. It'll just help them.
And then we move to the Niverson Stadium, and it's a tie between two sides that in their respective divisions have had quite strong campaigns, quite positive so far. Onchan still in the hunt towards the top of Division 2. They're going to be hosting a Ramsey side who, although they've dropped off the pace of the Premier League frontrunners Peel and Ayr United just at the moment in league terms, still had a strong season so far.
They certainly have, and you can't sort of knock them for that one, because I've watched them 2 or 3 times and they've looked really good. It's at the stadium. Stadium will be a little bit sticky. Noticed Tom Creer's not in FC Isle of Man squad, so he could be playing in this one. But I just think Ramsey will be too strong. But you look at that league table in Div 2 where Onchan are. I know this is a cup game. If Onchan won their games in hand, they're right up there at the top. So they're a strong side. But I just think Ramsey have got enough to take the result.
Very well. Then out to the west of the island, St John's United up against Ramsey Youth Centre Old Boys.
Yeah, St John's will just be happy with a game of football because it's 1 minute's on, next minute's off, and I think everybody's being affected like that. But St John's had a cracking result recently against Corinthians and against Ramsey Youth Centre. I expect to win that one. I think Sam Brown's squad will be strong tomorrow, and hopefully Luke Murray, their new signing, will play in that one, and he could be a big difference for them.
And then an All Division 2 clash. Douglas and District up against a Foxdale side that are still right up towards the top of Division 2 themselves.
Yeah, they are, and games in hand as well on Castletown. And, you know, Foxdale have done really well this season. I think Anthony Corkle's just got belief in the whole team, and there's players in there who are playing a little bit out of position, Matthew Cubban being one of them, and doing really well and scoring goals as well. So it's great to see for them because they've always sort of been so close. Jay Chatwood, I think, will play up front for them. I think Douglas District will find it really tough, Foxdale, to go through.
And then next up, a tie that I think we all earmarked a little bit as one to really watch this weekend, on paper at least. Over at Memorial Playing Fields, I should say, Moran, a challenging season again so far in the Candlelife Men's Premier League, up against the current Division 2 leaders. Castletown, Tony, this is intriguing.
It is, and I think it gives both teams a little bit of a pointer of how they're doing, because Moran know that the Premier League is a tough place to stay in, and they've battled each year of late to sort of stay in touch, but at the moment they're doing all right. They've had a couple of good results elsewhere. With Castletown, they're a little bit up and down, aren't they? I know they've only lost one game, but it's those two draws that have sort of kept them closer to the pack, and I think certainly they'll be looking to see if they can beat Moran, but I think Moran have got the strength there to do it. They've got good goal scorers, they work hard in midfield, defensively look okay, so that's why I'm going for Moran.
Very well. Then over in Colby, Governors Athletic will be hosting Michael United.
Yeah, and Governors Athletic have showed good performances of late. This game's at Colby, as well with Michael. They're staying in touch with the top of the table. They've played 11 with 24, and they'd love a cup run to go with this as well. And I'm pretty certain when we do the draw tomorrow night, the 16 in the hat, it'll throw up some really interesting fixtures. But I think Michael have got enough here to win this one.
And rounding out the Ecap FA Cup preliminary round of ties tomorrow is Jims up against Colby.
Yeah, touchwood, this one's okay because it's a little bit close to the river, isn't it, Tremode? So if there've been high sort of levels, it might just cause a problem to the pitch. But, Colby again, and I think, the league is going to be really tough for them to get promoted. They get top four, I'm sure. But again, another cup run for them would sort of lift the spirits of the team, and I'm going to go for Colby to win.
And just very quickly as well, before we move on, once the games are concluded tomorrow, there are intentions to hold the draw for the following round tomorrow. Yeah,
we've got two draws tomorrow. The Ecap FA Cup draw will be done live in London, hopefully about 5:20. That's the plan. We'll touch base with them just before we do the draw. But the other one is going to be the GH Call at Woods Cup, which is Division 2 sides only. And that competition kicks off in a couple of weeks' time. So do the draw tomorrow and see how it goes.
Very well. Well, the spotlight is certainly on the Ecap FA Cup this weekend, but not forgetting there are league fixtures taking place across the island tomorrow as well, all kicking off at 2 o'clock with the exception of one, which we'll get to. We've got two games in the Canada Life Men's Premier League. We've got Ayr United, joint top of the Canada Life Men's Premier League, only behind Peel on goal difference with a couple of games in hand. They're at home to Corinthians, and also another key battle towards the bottom of the table as Douglas Royal hosts St George's.
Yeah, it just depends what sort of players are available for that second game, Douglas Royal against St George's, because there's university guys there involved in both sides, so it's really difficult to predict a winner in that one. But I just think Douglas Royal at the moment, with that cracking result they had a couple of weeks ago, will get the sort of points away from St George's. As with Ayr and Corinthians lost another player this week. Ronald McDonald's been drafted into FC Alaman, so that sort of opens it up a little bit. I've seen the squads pretty strong, so Corinthians will be hoping to sort of contain Ayr United, but they love that pitch up there, don't they? Because their big throws are always a problem, and certainly with Stuart Smith in there, they're going to have to keep things nice and tight. And as I always say, just with those throws, you've got to treat them like corners. So it's going to be a tight game, I think, in the first half, but in the second half, I think Ayr will have the strength, and I'm going to go for Ayr to win.
And also tomorrow, 8 games across the Combination League, starting off with Canada Life Combination 1, 4 games there, and one of them is an early kick-off as well.
It is an early kick-off, and that's fair enough. That's St Mary's against Douglas Royal. I'm going to go for St Mary's to win that because they're keeping in touch at the top of the table. Rushing against Uni Mills, they're creeping up nicely, aren't they? On the top of the top 3, top 4, so I'm going to go for Rushing to win. Ramsey against Ayr, I'd expect Ramsey to win the Northern Derby in that. And Corinthians against Peel. I know Corinthians have got one or two really good young players in there, but Peel might just have players to win that game for them, so I'll go for Peel to win.
And last but certainly not least on Saturday, 4 games in DPS Limited Combination 2.
Yeah, Foxdale against Jims, I'll go with Foxdale. Ramsey Youth Centre against Colby, I'll go with Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys to win. Douglas Athletic against Douglas High School Old Boys. I think Douglas High School Old Boys will be too strong there. And Castletown against Maloo. I'm going to go for Castletown to win that.
That's the footballing action this Saturday. And turning to Sunday. Sunday sees the return and resumption of the Canada Life Women's Floodlit Cup. 2 games there and also 3 games down for the Masters football on Sunday. Yeah,
there's a bit of a qualification still going ahead in the Women's Floodlit Cup, and Maloo and Castletown, we'll see how that one goes before we can make the draw. We'll do the draw probably Monday. So the teams have got the semi-finals the week after, but Maloo against Castletown, I'd expect Maloo to win that one, and Corinthians against Peel, dependent on who's here and who isn't here, because I think there's 1 or 2 players still missing. I know Dom Dawson's still away, I think. So I'm going to go for Corinthians just to win it. And in the Masters football, Laxey against Governors. Laxey looking really strong in this league, so Laxey to win. Uni Mills against D&D, I'll go with D&D. And Corinthians against Peel, I'm going to go for Peel to win that one. I think Corinthians just a little down on quality, so that'll affect them.
And just very quickly before we move on, got around 60 seconds here with regards to the Ecap FA Cup fixtures taking place tomorrow. If there are any postponements for whatever reason, what is the situation with postponed fixtures? The draw will still go ahead as planned tomorrow, and in terms of the fixtures that need to be played, is there any plan in place at the moment?
Yeah, unless we lost so many fixtures, Rob, where there's so many either-ors in it, I don't really like that because it changes it alphabetically. But looking at what we've got on there, I think we'll be okay. We'll get a majority of them on. But, the other one to look at is sort of when the games are postponed, if they are tomorrow, where to get them in, because it starts getting scrappy. We've got the GH Cullet Woods Cup in a couple of weeks' time. So really, if clubs are out there and they're worried about the pitch, give up home advantage and go play at the opposition's ground if it's available. And that's what Braddon and Peel have done, and congratulations to them both.
Tony Mepham, thank you very much indeed.
Manx Radio Sport.
Just as is the case with football, this weekend sees the Isle of Man's rugby season kick back into action this weekend. Douglas and Vagabonds, they both return to the field on home soil this weekend in the respective English Club Championship competitions. Meanwhile, tomorrow also sees the resumption of the Ravenscroft Manx Shield. So I caught up with our rugby correspondent Dave Christian today to see what's in store for the Ireland rugby sides in their first outings of the new calendar year.
On the run-up to that Christmas break, Douglas had 3 extremely winnable fixtures against the teams that were down at the bottom of Regional 2 Northwest along with them. They've won 2 out of the 3 with bonus points as well. The third of the 3 games was postponed. Those 2 wins have lifted them 10 points clear of the danger area at the bottom of the table, and they've still got that game in hand against Kirby Lonsdale, who are bottom, so things looking good. This week, Douglas have Vale of Loon. Vale of Loon, like Douglas, have played 12 games, and like Douglas, they've both won 4. So that remains a very, very close battle in the table. There's only 2 points in it, and in the games that weren't won, Vale of Loon have managed 2 draws, Douglas haven't, but Douglas are only 2 points adrift of them. A win for Douglas tomorrow will put Douglas above Vale of Loon in the standings, and that will give them perhaps 7th place, depending on other results, which is really, really good. I've looked back to the first time they played Vale of Loon this season. They lost away 42 points to 7. The squad that travelled that day is largely the same as the squad that they've got at the moment. The big difference is they've got some game time under their belts. The players are playing more as a team together, and there's a whole lot more confidence down there at Portishead. Add all those things up, I suspect we're going to see a Douglas win tomorrow. It's a 2 o'clock kickoff down there at Portishead, and please try and get there in good time. Make sure you get yourself parked and get a cup of tea or a drink even before taking in the game. Vagabonds, they're also in in a very good position in their table. In fact, probably slightly better comparatively than Douglas. It's Counties 4 ADM. Vagabonds are at home to Ellesmere Port. It's a 2:15 kickoff up there at Ballafletcher. Now, Vagabonds are in third place at the moment, but they're only a couple of points off the top two. That's Ashton-under-Lyne and Colin Nelson. Now, Vagabonds won big at Ashton-under-Lyne just before Christmas, which sort of underlines their credentials. I'm suspecting that the addition of Gavin Turnbull in the forwards is making a little bit of a difference for them. They've got, obviously, Dan Bomwick at 10. Mark Oldfield's in there causing problems wherever he plays. And the rest of the backline look to be up to speed as well. So things are looking positive for Vagabonds. Ellesmere Port in their sights. Teams named, it's pretty much at full strength as well. I'm expecting a win up there for Vagabonds. Ellesmere Port, though, haven't played quite the same number of games. They've got a few games in hand, and they beat Vagabonds earlier in the season. And I'm just wondering whether those games in hand might be points perhaps to be banked by Ellesmere Port, which could yet see them be dark horses in the challenge promotion. But on paper and with current form going their way, it's got to be a Vagabonds win. And finally, we've got two games locally in the Ravenscroft Manx Shield. At Ballakilya Park, Port Erin, Southern Nomads will be taking on the Isle of Man Barbarians. Should be a Nomads win on paper. Barbarians is going to depend on what personnel other sides have free. Scheduled to be at QE2 was Western Vikings versus Ramsey. That game looks 99.9%. It's going to be switched to the Muirk Park, and that will be a 2:15 kickoff up there. On paper, again, it should be a Ramsey win. Western Vikings, though, have had a great little run in the Cheshire Plate. These two are going to play in the Cheshire Plate final at some stage before the end of the season. Just haven't got the details confirmed on that yet. This is almost like a dress rehearsal for that final, and I think they've got to play each other in the Shield at least once more after this. So there's going to be yet another dress rehearsal. But on paper, it's Ramsey with the form. But I just seen the name Jack Goodwin appearing on a team sheet over the festive period in one of those Christmas friendlies. Now, Jack and his brother Harry are two very key players for Western Vikings. They're big ball carriers, big strike runners, and they know what they're doing around a rugby pitch. Jack's been out with a mountain bike injury. If he's back, it may change Western Vikings and may change them just for the better. So keep an eye out for that.
Manx Radio Sport.
And finally tonight, it's an important weekend in hockey as the 2024 men's and ladies seasons get underway across the Isle of Man tomorrow. What's more, there's some mouth-watering ties that have been announced to kick off the campaigns across the divisions. Well, to find out more on the clashes across this curtain-raising weekend, I spoke with our hockey correspondent, Ben Cunningham. So a new year means one thing for Manx hockey. It means the start of a new men's and ladies season for 2024. Lots of opening day fixtures taking place this Saturday, the 6th of January. Let's start with the men's Premier League and three big games coming up there. We have Backers B versus Castletown A, Vikings A versus Backers A, and also we have Harlequins A against Valkyries A. Ben.
Yeah, let's start with the big one. Vikings A against Backers A. That's going to be a real good game. That Backers will be wanting to keep their hands on the trophy, but Vikings A will be challenging them, so be a good game there. Castletown men's A against Backers B, that'll be a really close game. However, Castletown I think will be too strong for them. And then Harlequins against Valkyries. Of course, Harlequins promoted up to the Premier League this season and face a tough ask against a very strong Valkyries men's A team.
In the ladies Premier League as well, three games there. So we have one of the big ones to start the season. Castletown A, the defending champions, up against Valkyries A, last season's runners-up. We also have Backers A against Castletown B, and also Harlequins A versus Vikings A.
Yeah, Castletown ladies A definitely want to be keeping their hands on the title, so a big start for them this season against Valkyries A. Vikings A, though, they face Harlequins A, newly promoted to the Premier League. Could they cause Vikings an upset? We'll see. And then, of course, the final game, Backers against Castletown Ladies B. I think Backers will come out on top on that one.
Very well, let's take a look through the other divisions. Starting with men's Division 1, we have Harlequins B. They'll be facing Vikings C. We have Vikings B up against Castletown B. And also men's Division 1, we have Valkyries B up against Ramsey A.
Yeah, Ramsey A, relegated from the Premier League last season, against Valkyries B, who will be definitely wanting to have a good start. However, Ramsey will be looking to make sure they get back up to the Premier League. Harlequins men's B against Vikings C. That'll be a very close game, I reckon, and possibly just one goal maybe between the two sides. We'll see. And then Vikings men's B against Castletown men's B. Vikings men's B lost out to Harlequins men's A at that promotion last season, and they'll be gunning for it this season.
Then looking at Ladies Division 1, 3 games there on this opening weekend. There's an interclub derby between Backers B and Backers C. Also in there we have Vikings B up against Ramsey A and Valkyries B up against Castletown C.
Let's start with the derby there. Backers B against Backers C. Of course, you'd favour the higher team to come out on top. However, we have seen it before, where a lower team has beaten their higher team, so we'll see how that one develops. The next one, Vikings Ladies B against Ramsey Ladies A. Ramsey Ladies A, relegated from the Premier League, be definitely looking to get back into the Premier League again this season. However, they face a tough task against Vikings Ladies B, who will be very strong, I reckon. The last game is Valkyries Ladies B against Castletown Ladies C. Valkyries Ladies B missed out to be promoted to the Premier League last year by Harlequins A, so this will be a real good test to see if Valkyries can do it this season.
And then we move into the respective Division 2s. Let's start with Men's Division 2. There's only 2 games there on this opening weekend.
Yeah, 3:35, and that sees Backers Men's Colts against Backers Men's D. You'd favour the Colts team to come out on top on that one, so Backers Men's Colts win there. And then the final game in that division is 12:35, and that's Ramsey Men's B against Valkyries Men's C. Ramsey Men's B could prove a shock in this league, I reckon, and probably give teams a good run for their money. However, Valkyries Men's C, newly formed side, what could they bring to this league? So we wait and see.
And there are 3 games in Ladies Division 2 as well this Saturday.
3 o'clock at QE2, Valkyries Ladies C against Castletown Ladies D. Again, Valkyries Ladies C, could they prove a shock against a Castletown Ladies D team who were leading Division 2 last season and only just missed out on promotion by losing to their Ladies C team? 3:35, we have Ramsey Ladies B against Harlequins Ladies B. That will be a really close game, I reckon, between the two sides. Both teams will probably be evenly matched, and I'm going to go for a Harlequins Ladies B win there. And then finally, 3:35, we have Castletown Ladies E against Vikings Ladies C.
And rounding things off, last but certainly not least, on this opening weekend of the men's and ladies season, we have 2 games in the under-15s league as well.
And the first one is at 11 o'clock at Castle Rushen High School, and this sees Harlequins under-15s against Vikings under-15s. And then the final game, 4:30 at QE2, and that's Castletown Savers against Backers under-15s.
That's all we have time for the first Friday Sport preview of 2024. Thank you so much for joining us, and many thanks to my guests as ever this week, Tony Mepham, Dave Christian and Ben Cunningham. So have yourself a wonderful Friday evening and a wonderful weekend, whatever you're doing. But from me, until next time, it's bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.